Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. This is episode 206 with myself, and this week we're joined by guest AJ Wilcox. AJ is a fantastic person to get to know if you are very interested in LinkedIn. He loves LinkedIn. He is often invited to many conferences to discuss LinkedIn and how businesses can use it or how they can tap into the power of LinkedIn. I'm excited to have him back on. You know, he's been a regular guest, basically. We have him on quite often, but fantastic to have AJ on. I'm going to go and bring him up, and then we're going to just do a quick intro and kind of get into things. How you doing, AJ?
Doing great, Christian. Great to see you again.
Great to see you as well. So I was telling people, you know, you're a LinkedIn expert, and I don't like to use the word expert, LinkedIn professional maybe. You know, nobody's really expert at something. They get very good at things to where they get to, you know, the professional level. But you're often invited to a lot of conferences to speak on LinkedIn. But you know, you can probably do it better justice than I can. What is it you do? You know, from LinkedIn's perspective, what do you do?
Yeah, so LinkedIn has an ads platform a lot like Facebook ads, Google ads, like many of you have experience with. And I run an ad agency that specializes in just LinkedIn ads. So it's all we do. Probably 90% of it is running accounts for people. About 10% is training and consulting, helping other people to run it better internally for themselves. So I love LinkedIn ads.
Fantastic. So speaking of that, you know, while I get a couple of things adjusted here, what do you recommend as far as like a budget? So for example, a lot of people get into, you know, advertising on say, Facebook, and, you know, they say, oh, well, hey, you know, you need thousands of dollars, you need hundreds of dollars to get started. LinkedIn and Facebook are two very different ad platforms. What is kind of the going rate for LinkedIn for somebody that wants to get started?
Yeah, so plan on your clicks landing somewhere between about $6 to $9 a click, which is obviously expensive if you're used to something like Facebook. But you know, Facebook ad prices are climbing pretty quickly, so I don't expect that to feel high for very long. And I tell people, just because if you're paying a lot for your clicks, it means you have to spend more to get enough data for real analysis. So I recommend spending somewhere, at least if you're going to pilot it, between about $3,000 and $5,000 for the month. Generally, what that means is by the end of the month, you've got enough data to be statistically significant to a 95% confidence interval, all the way down to the conversion. So I like that.
Fantastic. And, you know, and I love the idea there, you know, you talk about how people should have, you know, a certain budget there. And it seems like it's rather high, but you have to remember, and the same thing applies to people that are running Google AdWords campaigns and whatnot. You are, you know, think about it like this. If there's less space that you can advertise, for example, or you only want certain people to be able to advertise, the price is going to be higher. And, you know, and that applies to, you know, Google AdWords, it applies to LinkedIn. You know, as you mentioned with Facebook ads are getting more and more expensive. Obviously, why is that? Because there's more demand, but there's obviously less places that you can necessarily advertise, or the keywords that you're trying to target, you know, are getting to be very competitive because, hey, everyone else is wanting to use them as well. So, by the way, speaking of LinkedIn ads, what do you recommend to people, to viewers here, that never use LinkedIn ads? Are there any little caveats, any little quirks that they need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest ones that if you're into social, which you obviously are by watching this, just some things you have to keep in mind that are similar on other social channels. So you can't go right for the kill, especially since LinkedIn, we're mainly dealing with larger deal sizes. You can't put an ad out there that just says, click here to talk to my high pressure sales rep. No one will click that. It just won't happen. So we've got to go further up the funnel and start looking at things like, you know, providing free content value. My guide is any asset that I can find that gets a 20% conversion rate or higher is absolute gold. And I can do a ton with that. If I launch an asset and it gets less than an 8% conversion rate, then I know it's a flop and I'm not providing enough value.
Do you happen to have any examples or anything on your website as well that viewers can reference? For example, if they want to figure out, you know, well, what kinds of things do you get, you know, really high conversion rates on versus what somebody might think might be the right thing to use?
Ooh, good question. We quite honestly haven't spent a whole lot of time on like case studies and things.
Okay.
We've been busy working on client accounts. But something that is cool is if you check out either lynda.com or linkedinlearning.com, I was the one who created the course on advertising on LinkedIn. So if you check out that course, it's like super well produced. Just a little over an hour of just holding your hand, walking you through every piece of the platform. That'd probably be a good one to start with.
Fantastic. And I think that's a really, kind of speaking to your expertise here, is that, people don't just get invited to be a lynda.com representative to put together tutorials. So that speaks to AJ's breadth of knowledge. And I personally have worked with AJ, does fantastic work, extremely knowledgeable. So make sure you connect with him as well. So we had a lot to talk about this week in social media news. Where do you want to start, by the way?
Well, obviously because of who I am, I really want to start on the LinkedIn news. LinkedIn came out with the new Success Hub, and let's check that one out.
Definitely. So what do we have going on here? So LinkedIn's got this new Insights Hub. What exactly is this?
I think they think it's supposed to be a helpful place to get information about the types of advertising that you might want to do. But what it really turned into is just a big collection of blog posts, honestly. I mean, you look at it, if you scroll down there and click down on advertising insights, this is the section I'm going to care about, because, if I'm running ads for the first time, I kind of want guides. I want them to tell me, here's what you want to prioritize, here's what you don't want to. And when you get to that, I mean, it really is just a collection of blog posts, and they're all super high level, like, what does it mean to measure, and how can marketers measure, and all this stuff about measurement, about brand. And none of this is the stuff that advertisers actually care about. So
what do they care about, by the way? So like, if it's a whole bunch of blog posts, it's like almost like a getting started guide, a walkthrough. What do they care about?
I think I would want them to, I think advertisers care about, how do I avoid the pitfalls? Where do I find value here? How do I actually do things? And completely absent here is any sort of guide on, like, here's how to set up a campaign. Here's how to set up an ads account if you don't have one already. Here's how to optimize. Here's how to read and understand your data. So I hope it's coming. I hope this is just like the bare bones start.
So do you think they're doing that because that also then introduces their ability to then work with, say, somebody who, like yourself, who's really big into LinkedIn ads, to be almost like an instructor, for example, and kind of capitalize on that? Or do you think that, is it actually something that, hey, they're just working on it, they haven't quite gotten there yet?
I think it's something they just haven't gotten to yet.
Okay.
I've done some content with them. We've done webinars. We've done other things that have done quite well. And so I think they've got the data. They know the types of content that people are asking for. I quite honestly think they just aren't creating it yet. Maybe because, I don't know, they don't realize its value, or they have other priorities or something. But like I said, hope this is just the beginning and they're going to keep doing more.
Definitely. And you and I talked about this a bit offline before we started, but LinkedIn, they are owned by Microsoft for quite a number of years. They didn't really do a whole lot. I think it was to kind of get everything kind of meshed up properly within the company. I think, kind of as we talked, I think that hopefully they're going to work on this and get this rolled out versus just like, hey, let's roll out a half-baked tool. So hopefully they will roll something out. So if I'm a business, by the way, how does this actually impact a business? Like, how can they use this?
Well, that's the thing, is I don't think it actually impacts business all too much. They have it broken down into 3 sections. So there's one about people insights, and this is where they publish research about professionals. And there might be some nuggets in there. You probably just have to, swim to find them. There's one about industry insights, and this is something LinkedIn has in droves. They're doing great here. They have all the insights. So if they can surface them to us properly about which industries are interested in what, they're doing a lot of that with the content in people's feeds right now. And they're actually using that data to inform a type of targeting we have on the platform called interest targeting. So, hopefully they just keep filling that out, and that's going to be interesting. But I'm looking at the advertising insights, and like I said, there's not a whole lot of value here yet.
Right. So again, hopefully, and maybe it is within some of these blog posts, as you mentioned, there's a lot of, there's a Success Hub for marketers, there's the LinkedIn Insights and Research page that's here. There's the people insights, industry insights, the advertising insights. I'd say, if you're just getting started and want to get into LinkedIn ads, this might be probably the first place I would probably go if I'm on the LinkedIn site to find that resource. Facebook has a very similar training platform that they do. They have their blueprints course. I'm wondering if this might be kind of, taking a page out of that to get people, to move towards that. Maybe they'll hopefully add some examples. I really hope so.
I hope so too. Wouldn't that be great?
Fantastic. Yes. So anything else you want to add on LinkedIn's Insights Hub, or do we want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I say let's move on. This one, okay. Just not a whole lot of value yet, but I hope they build out things like certifications, guides, how-tos, the stuff that people come to me every day saying, I was looking for this information. I can't find it on LinkedIn. Can you help me? Yes. It'd probably behoove them to start creating that content.
It would, definitely. So what topic do you want to move to next? So we talked a little bit about LinkedIn this week. That's all the news that they have.
All right, so I want to go to the article about Google starting to surface individual podcast episodes in the SERPs.
So what do we got going on here?
Well, for the longest time, podcasts have really been in a silo of their own, and it's quite unfortunate. I mean, the only way that you would hear about a podcast is if you were somehow connected to the host, or a friend told you about it, or you happen to see it in maybe the new and noteworthy section and it catches your eye. There just isn't a whole lot of interesting ways to find podcasts. They've been ignored. Yeah, exactly. And so this is so cool to see Google actually caring about podcast episodes. What they're going to do is they're going to go in and index each one. They're going to listen to the audio, index the text, and then just using probably a very similar algorithm to what they already use for SEO, they're going to start surfacing them, which I think is awesome.
I think this is a fantastic update, by the way. And, I think you and I were talking offline. Do you have a podcast, by the way, or is this something you're working on?
I actually am getting to work on it right now. So I'm still in the early stages. I just put a post out on LinkedIn with 4 thumbnails, for cover art, just asking people's opinions. So I'm getting close.
Very cool. By the way, if you want to, feel free to grab the link, drop it in the comments for this week's show, so we can ask viewers, which one they like as well. They can help you give some insights. So definitely give that a chance. So I'd say, I like this. The thing when you're uploading a podcast to Google, obviously things that are important from a search perspective. And again, this also applies to your blog post that you're doing. It's the metadata. So it's not just like, hey, I got this fantastic piece of artwork. The artwork is one thing. The metadata is one thing for the file names, for the topic, like what is your episode about? For example, if you've got certain questions that people are always asking you, that's a good thing to put in your description. You don't want to keyword stuff, though. Obviously, if you keyword stuff, they could penalize you for that or downrank. But if you guys check out this screenshot here, basically what we have here, as you know, if you search for a video on YouTube, what you basically will see is you will see, for example, some related blog posts. You'll also see, for example, if there's a related YouTube video, you'll see a video section, usually at the top. If you see the screenshot here, what we also have for podcasts, it works very much the same way. They've got their carousel right there, so you can quickly slide across and find a relevant podcast. Again, it's not about like, oh, hey, I'm at episode 1000 or I'm at only my first episode. Keep in mind, with podcasts, it's about the quality that you provide in the podcast for your audience. So definitely spend time, don't just like, hey, I'm going to upload the audio and that's done. Make sure you check all the boxes so you can get your podcast ranked on Google. Anything you want to add, by the way, to this? I think this is a very, very, very useful feature. Is there any transcribing, and do they do anything cool like that?
See, that's what I think I wish I had. So we know Google's doing all the work of transcribing, just like when you upload something to YouTube, they're putting subtitles in it for you. I just wish they would give us access to it because when you go through and start doing all the show notes pages, it would sure be nice to have all that text. We know Google's doing the work. They're just not giving it away for free.
Right. No, definitely. So with this, if you kind of go through the article, obviously for the index in Google, they're automatically transcribing all the podcast episodes. So, you and I were talking about this right before we started. Make sure, it's the same for video, for live video, for recorded videos, for podcasts, that you have a quality microphone. You and I talked earlier, we helped try to get your Shure SM7B set up. That is definitely something that I would encourage people to make the investment in, which is a good quality microphone, because the microphone can help the audio. And then if Google, for instance, is trying to transcribe that, Google also might see the transcription. For instance, like if they see they might be able to understand the audio much better with a quality microphone versus one that's picking up a lot of noise. For example, if your computer fan is on, your microphone is probably going to pick that up if it's not a good microphone. So I'd say keep that in mind, make the investment in your microphone.
Yeah, if you think, I mean, any sort of background noise could confuse Google. You want it to be as accurate as possible. Yeah, invest in good audio equipment.
Definitely. By the way, and I saw you just sent me the link for your podcast art. So I'm just going to drop this in the comments. Which artwork should AJ use for his podcast that he's launching? And so just feel free to vote there. So thanks a lot, everyone, for taking the time to do that. By the way, on that note, I want to make sure also mention to viewers, we've got obviously some LinkedIn topics, we've got some Google search topics, we've got some YouTube news, and we've also got some other minor Instagram updates and minor Facebook updates, things that we're actually not going to cover on the show because we value your time. And so what we're going to do with those is we're going to put those in the daily blog post recap, which you can get by going to socialchefs.com/daily. Sign up for that newsletter. You'll get a daily newsletter that I create a few times a week there for you with just very focused content to help you improve on a certain topic. But make sure you sign up for that if you want to find out about all of these topics and more.
Definitely do, because I am signed up and it is awesome content.
Thank you very much, by the way. I really appreciate that. So we've got AJ, we've got the Google search option. We've got AJ's podcast. What else do we have, AJ, that we want to discuss?
I think it might be interesting to talk then about Instagram's newest app called Threads. What do you know about this one?
I think that's basically the bottom line is what this is doing is it's a way for you to take like a close friends list that you create on Instagram, and you can automatically send them your location as well as various other areas that you are currently doing. So for example, it could be your location. It could be like your battery. I don't really understand the battery life of a phone unless you're like, hey, let me share my phone with you. But it gives you the ability to automatically share this content with your closest friends. From a business perspective, this is a very similar feature to what Snapchat already has. This is obviously going to roll out for Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook and Instagram. What do you think about this, by the way? Are you going to use this, or do you think a business could use this?
I don't know about business application, but I sure do love the implications from a personal perspective. Because I can't tell you how many times I've been at a big event, a conference, and I know people I know are going to be there. But unless I happen to catch them posting on LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm going to be at this event next week, who wants to meet up? Then I don't see them. So I would absolutely love something like this for LinkedIn, where you could maybe not so granularly where it would show your GPS coordinates, but I would absolutely love it if we had some sort of way of saying, hey, I'm in this area. Which of my connections are close? And maybe you could have different levels of, here are the people who I don't care if they know my exact location, and here are some that maybe it'd be okay if they knew the city I was in or something. I think that would be pretty awesome. It's funny on the Threads thing, Instagram started working on something called Direct, and they ended up shutting it down because all the feedback was, we don't want to leave the Instagram app to go into a different experience. And so they shut it down, and now they're working on a different app. Again, Threads app is separate. I thought that was kind of funny.
No, absolutely. And here's the thing, there's nobody that really owns one of these features per se. Snapchat might have already had this, but it also comes down to the integration. How does it actually work within the app? Again, the user's perspective as well. So I think this is I think it's a good update. It's Facebook developing this for Instagram. Keep in mind also, by the way, that Facebook has been moving to more consolidation of their platforms. So you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got WhatsApp, and there's a lot of consolidation to where they want to have less duplication of the features across the different apps. So they're basically going to try to converge a lot of things. And I think at some point this will converge into Facebook and WhatsApp, because again, it's about messaging. You want to keep people updated. You should not have to constantly be on your phone. Why not be able to set up rules or things like that to automatically notify people? A lot of that already exists on phones, so I think it's a very useful feature here for for Instagram. And I think it's a feature that a lot of people, they'll probably have to take some getting used to, but again, it's your close friends. Who do you actually want to share this content with? For example, I'll give you a business perspective here. So like one use case you could do for business here is you could say, okay, I've got a list of close friends. Maybe I put my, maybe my virtual assistant that I have, if I have a virtual assistant, or I have some employees and I want them to be updated on certain things. Because again, if they're helping me manage my business, I want to make sure I keep them abreast of what's going on. So that's one way I could see this actually happening, because it's not like, how many times, by the way, tell me about this, how many times have you ever gone to do something and you happen to just like forget because that fleeting like moment, oh, I'm going to go do it, and then you got distracted. I think that could be a very good, useful case for a business. So they don't have to always just be trying to think of like, what's the next thing they need to be working on.
Yeah, that's a good usage for it. I mean, of course, we're hoping that there's going to be something tied into advertising, or at least me as an ads person, I hope there's going to be some kind of tie-in where you can do location-based ads, maybe a little bit more granularly than you already can. So I think this could be cool. Obviously, there are privacy concerns, so you got to make sure that those privacy settings are locked down, where it really is only your close friends who can, see every move of yours. But yeah, pretty cool. I think.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on like, hey, let me share my location all the time that something is happening. But I will say, if we go from like, say, a WhatsApp perspective, I love the fact that, within WhatsApp, I can quickly send somebody my location if I am trying to actually like give them direction to things. For example, if maybe they're going to try to go to a conference or workshop we're putting on, it's very easy to just send them a pin. Hey, here's the location. They can go in and get the exact directions. So I could see that being very useful here, almost setting up like some pipelines saying like, hey, here's my close friends. Send this to, this group of people for like, 15 minutes or 1 hour, whatever the feature is for sharing your location.
Yeah. And there is an app currently called Glimpse. That I don't know if you've heard of, and it's GLYMPSE, I think. And what it does is it allows you to send a snapshot of your current location. And I get it from a couple people that I will do meetings with, where we'll say we're going to be meeting up at this restaurant for lunch, and then they'll send me a text that says, check out my Glimpse. And I can see them coming down the freeway with an estimated time of their arrival, which is super cool. I mean, you don't have to get there and go, I wonder if these guys are late. Should I call him? It's right there. How cool would that be for friends to have kind of that Glimpse kind of feature within Instagram? You're going to be meeting up with your friends for a party, and you can see, based on GPS, how close they are, all that. I think that's a pretty cool use for it.
Definitely. And, we're going to add that tool to our list of apps. That is actually a feature that exists within WhatsApp, actually. So I could send you my current location and say like, hey, here's my exact location, and make it constantly available to you. Or I can say, hey, this is only available for 1 hour, or send them my location, my live location as I'm moving. Again, like you could set up like, say, a WhatsApp group, and I'm kind of pontificating here. So like you could set up a WhatsApp group or set up individual messages to people and send them your location. And then as you're constantly getting closer to your target, very, very useful feature to keep them abreast of things. That way you don't have to be like, well, hey, I was driving, for example. I couldn't send you my location. Just give them access to your live location for, say, a certain amount of time. And then that way they can easily track what's going on. It's a good automation feature, I think, versus saying, well, hey, let me constantly, like, there's not like it's on or it's off. You have some different options there. So I think this is going to be a useful feature for people. I think at some point, again, this logo that's here on the Instagram Threads image here, I think this looks a lot like WhatsApp. And so I think at some point you're going to see some convergence as they move things together. But very, very, very useful feature.
Makes total sense. And that's what I get for only ever turning on WhatsApp when I'm traveling internationally. That's the only way I use it. I should learn more about it.
Definitely. And by the way, I'm looking at the comments here. Thanks a lot to Joanne Kroll and Robert as well for joining. Joanne says, hey, I've used the Snapchat maps for when meeting up. Again, this is a feature that already exists in Snapchat. It's coming to Instagram, and obviously you have it within WhatsApp. So I think it's going to be obviously available across all of Facebook's family of apps.
Awesome,
So,
Joanne. Thanks for throwing that in.
definitely. And I love it how people share like their use cases of how they're using it, because that's the thing. People want to know, how can this actually help me? For example, Joanne, she's I think she's a professional organizer actually. And so she, again, you're using it for client work, and that could be applicable to any industry that you're in if you're going to meet people in person. So keep that in mind. So do you want to move on, by the way, to another topic? Any last parting thoughts on this one?
Yeah, let's jump right into Instagram testing back-to-back story ads. I like.
So what the heck is this? I mean, we've got another piece of Instagram news, but what is this one?
Well, I absolutely love this quote from Facebook in here. It says, Facebook's goal here is to see if back-to-back story ads from different brands provides a more seamless experience for users. And that just, I literally laughed out loud when I read that, because I was like, yeah, I mean, no amount of extending your advertising ever provides a more seamless experience for users. But this is just, it's more ad inventory. We know Facebook and Instagram are getting more and more expensive. And so this is a way for them to try to keep costs down. And we'll see if users revolt. It sounds pretty wild. I mean, when YouTube started doing this about 4 or 5 months ago, showing 2 ads in a row, it really pissed me off.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's great that they're going to test this out. You and I were talking also beforehand. I mean, there needs to be a different model. Everybody's still pushing the advertising model. Like ads need to work. Like, we just need to show ads to people. And the thing is, users don't want to see ads. That is the bottom line here. I'm glad that they're trying different things, but I think they need to really turn the advertising model on its head. Try to get out of like showing people like, hey, let's put this in front of somebody. I personally don't feel that they work. I don't feel that the normal ads. I don't think they have the impact. I think at some point we just become, we start to tune them out, become immune to them. Great, it's another ad, and what's going to happen in that 30 to 45-second ad, or even 15-second ad? People are going to do this. They're going to leave their computer, or their phone on. They're going to go do something else on their phone. They'll be able to pick up their phone, and for that 15 to 30 seconds, they'll check their notifications, and they're going to not actually watch your ad. So what do you think about this one, by the way?
I think you're absolutely right. Like, I remember early days when I was watching Hulu and they had 10-second commercials. And I remember thinking at the time, like, hey, this isn't bad. If all commercials were 10 seconds long, I wouldn't mind this at all. And then, of course, they started getting more advertisers who were probably interested in larger formats. And then when we started getting the 30-second long, the minute long, I would get up off the couch and I would go to the kitchen for a snack or to go get a drink. And so I feel like the shorter things are, the more attention you're going to have. As you elongate them, you're ruining user experience. And like you said, they're going to go to their notifications, and chances are they're going to get lost and they're going to forget that they were even doing something with you.
Absolutely. And Joanne mentioned, she says, hey, stories ads need to be creative. And I think that is a very, very true statement. You can't just run what is the typical ad that you normally run on, say, Facebook or your standard Instagram feed. You have to experiment and do some different things. Joanne, if you have any recommendations to viewers on how they can be more creative with their stories ads, or you maybe have some good examples that you want to share, feel free to drop those as well in the comments for people who are watching here on Facebook or on YouTube. I think that, again, it also is experimenting and seeing what your viewers are interested in. So, for example, maybe what you could do is go follow some different brands. For example, if you're in the automotive industry, follow some people in the automotive industry, so that way you get their ads, or check out like the retail industry and see what people are running, and then figure out how to deconstruct their ads. And I'll be honest with you, it's not very difficult, I don't think, to go in and deconstruct an ad and see how they created something. They make these tools very easy to use because they obviously want people to be able to advertise, and they don't want to make them very complex for people to have to go through like 100 steps to make an ad. So keep that in mind. But, as you mentioned, you also said use humor or emotion. I think that is a great example. If you have specific examples, by the way, of some really good Instagram stories ads that you've seen, just let us know. So anything you want to add on this feature, AJ?
No, I don't think so.
By the way, before I switch, I do want to say Joanne has a fantastic example. She says, you can never do wrong with puppies. And that's absolutely true. Puppies, kittens, kids, basically, showing people having fun doing something. For example, if you're trying to actually sell a physical product, sometimes it's actually showing people the fun side, like how can this feature be useful for them? For example, let's actually talk about this real quick. So, how many times have you seen a made-for-TV ad, for example? What is one of the things that they do on the made-for-TV ad? They show the pain point. It's like, hey, let's see, what's one of the ads that you can think of for like a made-for-TV product?
Oh, I think about the Super Bowl ones. Those are obviously made for TV.
Okay.
I mean, if we think of like, I want to say,
or as seen on TV. Sorry, as seen on TV.
As seen on TV. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, trying to think of an individual, maybe like Ginsu knives or something like that.
Okay. Okay. So Ginsu knives. Okay. So basically, what's the pain point? The pain point that people are often showing is they are showing how, for example, if you obviously don't sharpen your knives, they get very dull. You go try to cut something. Say you're trying to cut, a piece of bread, for example, and you're cutting it with a knife that is very dull. So what you're going to run into there is you're going to run into, instead of having this nice piece of bread, you're going to end up with basically a tortilla, a flat piece of bread, because you're having to put so much pressure on this. And for people, presentation is important. And so if you're cutting bread, for example, and you want to make this nice looking sandwich, you don't, if your knives aren't sharp enough, you're pushing down on the bread, it's going to be flat. So that could be, for example, the pain point you're showing people. And then, what you're doing is showing, hey, these knives, you don't have to actually continuously sharpen your knives, if you get, for instance, one of their products. And a lot of times these products do, they do what they say. They help solve a problem that most people have. So I think, that's a good example. Joanne says, hey, Subaru, they're great with their dog ads. Again, you're also playing to emotion. So like people love animals, they love kids, they love cats, puppies, all that sort of stuff. You're tugging on the heartstrings of a consumer. So I think that's definitely something that you want to tap into. But look at the brands that you follow, or look at the brands that you use. Company you used to work for, like they always talk about being a product of the product. And here's the thing, like we look at for instance, why do you buy iPhone over Android, for example, or Apple over Microsoft? Or why do you wear certain clothing from one brand while another competitor makes a similar product? A lot of times maybe it's the way it makes you feel. If it's like clothing you're trying on, people are trying on clothing because it makes them feel good. For example, they switch to a certain brand. So just keep that in mind with your stories and ads. And I'd say follow some of the brands that you currently use so that you can get their stories in your content. Visit their website also, so obviously you can get some remarketing going on there. Anything you want to add, by the way, to this, to Instagram stories ads?
No, just that was a brilliant intro into it. I think I just want to give a shout out to the daily newsletter again. Go to socialchefs.com/daily to get on that newsletter and hear about all of these, even if you can't make the live show.
Fantastic. So we've talked Instagram, we've talked YouTube today. We have talked, we said, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Do we have any other news we want to cover? Do we want to move to tool time? What are you thinking?
Oh, let's cover just very briefly. I mean, this is just a mention that YouTube is shutting down the direct messages product. The article that you have on there is actually really funny. It shows that I think for the vast majority of us, we're saying we have so many inboxes everywhere that sure, YouTube, go ahead and shut that down. I don't need one more place to check. But who is it who's actually getting hammered on this one?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I personally, I don't really go check my YouTube inbox. I'm glad I get comments and whatnot from people, but again, this is September 18th. If this is going to start to happen, I don't think a lot of people are really going to be worried about this disappearing. Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
In the article, there's something kind of funny. There is one group who's taking this really hard, and it's little kids. You'll see comment after comment on this news release specifically of people saying, my mom doesn't let me use social media. I can't give out my phone number. This is the only way I had to communicate with my friends. And so you can imagine these are like 9, 10, 11-year-old kids. And anyway, I feel bad for them. I'm not laughing at their expense, but I do think that's funny that they shut this down and it did affect like this group of kids.
Definitely. And it actually reminds me of a story that actually took place a while back. A couple weeks ago, there was, like a kid, they had gotten, I guess they had all their electronics taken away from them. So, hey, how are they going to communicate with their friends? And what basically transpired was, okay, they took their phone away. So then the kid moved on to say their Nintendo DS to have conversations, and then that got taken away. And then okay, well, how else are they going to communicate? It wasn't not like writing a letter, but they got to the point where they're actually sending a message from their refrigerator, their smart fridge, basically to be able to again send those messages out to their friends to stay connected. But again, September 18th, YouTube's going to be removing that whole messaging feature. But as AJ mentioned, there are lots and lots and lots of options for you to have people message you. I would say this, and feel free to disagree on this, but I think that it comes down to having a central repository where you want people to message you. So, for example, if it's email, have them send you an email. If you want to send them to your website, maybe go to a contact form. If Facebook is the platform you play on, have them send you a message through Facebook Messenger. But determine really where you want your audience to go and guide them there. You can't make them send you messages, but you can at least get them to the platform where you typically spend the most time. That's what I would do.
I think that's a really good point. The other thing is that we all know that YouTube comments are not brand safe anyway. So I'm not too worried. I mean, I think, sure, keep comments on videos because a lot of us rely on those with our YouTube channels. But if you are running a brand, you probably don't want conversation happening inside of the comments. You want to get it off where people are actually identified with who they actually are, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Those are great places. On YouTube, it's anonymous and there's a ton of trolls. Get away from there for brand safety.
Definitely. And I like the point that you just mentioned, which is to try to take some of these conversations offline. So for example, if somebody has a question, let's say you have a specific blog post on their question, like that is something that I can reply back and send you the blog link to check out the article if that's where there is additional information. If it's something that is more sensitive, again, get it out of the public. Tell them, hey, thanks a lot for telling me about this. I sent you a private message, for example. If it's, for example, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever platform it is that you communicate with people on. And also, by the way, I'd consider setting up some additional email addresses as well for some of these things. If you're your own website and you host your own website, set up different email addresses. So you could have a personal one, you could have one that's for certain parts of your business. These could be forwarders, get sent to you. But again, you want to make sure that wherever you send people to, you're actually going to respond. And like you were just mentioning, take the important conversations, the ones you don't want to have out in the public, take them offline to a private channel. Yes, people can obviously screenshot that, but it's, it again moves it out to where it's not in the open as much. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think YouTube's always going to, any website would be fighting this. We're going to shut down this ability to communicate, but it's still important for some of our users to communicate. Where do they go? They're going to leave the platform. So, of course, YouTube wants to keep all of its traffic on YouTube, but maybe there's a way of allowing people to connect their Twitter handle or attach some other form of identity so that they can still go and have that offline conversation.
Definitely. And also keep in mind with this, if you use, for example, a social media dashboard tool, what you can also end up doing is you can have a lot of your conversations funnel through that dashboard tool. So this way you're not having to manage them in multiple places. For example, Facebook has a lot of this built in for pages. You can go to Facebook pages and you can see, for example, all of the direct messages that are sent to your page. You can also see the conversations that are happening on Instagram. And so forth. But just keep that in mind. So if you want to get those messages sent, having a dashboard tool is a fantastic tool to help you monitor those. Agorapulse, that's a tool that I highly recommend, not just for social scheduling, but also for the ability to manage all of your content across one platform, one tool. That way you're not scatterbrained. Hey, I got to go here and check this, and when I'm done, I got to go here and here and here and here. Because sometimes, and I think you might have experienced this, people will message you on one platform and hey, they'll send you an email. And it's like, well, hey, now I have double the work. So what you could do is you could say, well, hey, I'll respond to the email, and I'll quickly respond to the Facebook message and say, hey, guys, hey, thanks a lot for sending whatever the message was. I went ahead and responded to your email. Let's communicate through there. Just be very upfront with your audience. So anything you want to add, by the way, about the fact that YouTube is shutting their direct message feature down? I find it very ironic that they are shutting the direct messaging feature down, but yet you have Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp really pushing you to use more direct messages. I wonder if they have a product, maybe another product that they're trying to push people to use or that they want to roll out.
Yeah, I think this comes down to the friction that Google has felt for a long time around what is YouTube? Is it a search engine or is it a social media platform? And DMs are something that you would really want if it's a social media platform. I'm guessing they just looked at the resources it took to maintain compared to the amount of people who are actually using it. But they tried to integrate Google Plus into it, and then Google Plus is now gone. I think this is an interesting move away maybe from the concept of it being a social media platform.
Right, absolutely. And I'm trying to figure this out because one thing that YouTube is doing that I think is, that I really like is if I go to YouTube and I'm sitting there looking through videos, I love the stories aspect of YouTube. And I think creators on YouTube do a fantastic job with this, people who get access to this feature, because I can go in and the person can be like, hey, we're getting ready, for example, like we get ready to launch the show. Hey, we're getting ready to launch the show. Be sure you tune in at, in this case, it was 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I think, right, AJ? 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here's what, check us out at youtube.com/social chefs. So
yeah, that seems like the best idea.
I mean, but again, it's incorporating it, it's sort of getting away from like the private message, making it sort of public. Again, leaving it up to the creator to kind of figure out what they do. But I'd say this, just pick and choose what you share and, move some of those conversations offline if you need to. So that's my take on that.
Totally hear you there. Let's jump into the tools. You gave us two really interesting ones this week.
So it's my favorite segment, and this is obviously Phil's favorite segment. Phil's our regular co-host. He can't be with us this week. Hopefully his move is going well, but we like to share two tools each week with viewers, and these tools might be features such as, it might be a feature such as a tool to help you save time. It might be a tool to help you accomplish a specific task. For example, if it's a mobile app, a lot of mobile apps are one-off applications. And so we like to pick two tools each week and share with viewers. So the first tool that we have this week, and AJ, I'm gonna let you kind of tell people about this one. So the first one, it's called Shoot. What does this one do exactly?
Yeah, so Shoot is interesting. It turns your phone into a camera. It's currently only for iOS, but anytime you're shooting video on your phone, you're always going to have things in the way. You're going to have your status bar at the top. You'll have notifications pop up, things like that. But if you're just trying to use it for the camera, like for instance, if you're doing live streaming, if you are, that's probably the biggest usage I think for this. It cleans it up, makes it so you are just using it as a camera.
Fantastic. And the other thing also that this does is a lot of times if you try to use for instance, like if you try to use your phone and you connect over a protocol such as Bluetooth or this, obviously, and those two things kind of go hand in hand there, obviously, what will typically happen is you will have some lag. So for example, if I'm using a camera, and I love wireless and I love Bluetooth, but it does not always work for certain applications. Like if I'm sitting there trying to, for example, doing live video works much better when things are plugged in. It's the same for like broadcasting a show. If you're broadcasting a show, you will hear, if you talk to pretty much any of the big companies that specialize in live streaming tools, they will tell you, hey, make sure you plug directly into your internet connection. Don't rely on the Wi-Fi signal, because the Wi-Fi signal can be impeded by walls, doors, certain objects. People actually can also impede a signal as well. So you might have a degraded signal. And what can end up happening is there will be lag in the video, lag in the audio. It may not work very well. It may be sort of okay, but you never really know. Like what works one time, it might not work well the next time because something moved. But this is a $2.99 app. What it allows you to do is you can plug your phone directly into, say, your computer, and you can use it as a camera. Now, for those of you who are running a lot of like your production from your laptop, you don't always have enough USB ports. Remember, every time you plug something in, it takes energy away from your laptop processing power. It takes some sort of resources. So, you may need to, for example, look into having like a hub that can support that, a high-powered hub, like high-speed hub, like a USB 3.0 hub or USB-C hub. But make sure, you just plug this, for example, in, and then now you have a second camera that you can use with tools such as OBS or other live streaming tools. They recommend things such as you've got Twitch, you've got OBS, and much more. But it's $2.99, well worth it to check out. And if you want to use this as a second camera, just very simply put it on a tripod, get a very long or a fairly long extension cable for your phone so you can plug it into your computer and use it. Very, very good app. This is actually an app that came up when we were talking about this, about StreamYard, which is the tool we use to broadcast social chatter. So anything you want to add for Shoot, by the way?
I think we're seeing live video get a lot more interesting. Obviously, we're on one right now. We see LinkedIn just released live here about probably 6 months. It's still an application process. But I think tools like this, we're probably going to see more of them to aid people in doing live video. Because as you know, the technology just isn't that great for doing live video.
No, it's not. And I constantly am answering questions about live video. A lot of people have questions about like, well, hey, my audio is out of sync. So like if you're trying to, for instance, do a wireless camera, sometimes the audio will not sync up properly. The video might be grainy, for example. And if somebody is trying to tune into your content, if the audio is out of sync or the video, maybe the audio is skipping because, hey, there's some sort of lag because it's just too much. It's very taxing on the system. Just because you can live stream does not mean that it's going to work 100%. And it's going to work perfectly. You have to have things in place to make that happen. You have to have a lot of internet bandwidth. You have to have a very powerful computer. It's not just, hey, I'm going to fire my computer up and start live streaming. This is essentially, if it's your computer, you are using your computer, which is basically the brain to power things. So keep that in mind. But that's tool number 1 for the week. It's called Shoot. So tool number 2, what is this one, AJ?
All right, so this one's called Ad Inbox Me. And right now it's on a wait list. So if you want access to this, go sign up. You go to adinbox.me. And the really cool part about this is because Facebook has that transparency where you can see which posts are being attached to different pages. This is monitoring those company page or the pages and shooting you an email alert when one of your competitors or someone that you specify launches a new ad. So you can know right up to the minute what your competitors are doing. Pretty sweet.
I think that's a pretty sweet app. And I think it's a free app as well, right?
It says it's free and always will be.
And I mean, here's the thing, like I could see so many use cases for this. Like if I'm a business, I could, for example, put in my competitors. That might be the first thing I would start with. I might even put my own business page in there as well. So like maybe actually, I would start by this. I would put my business page in as one that I wanted to monitor to make sure obviously it's working, to make sure I know when my ads are actually getting approved. I don't have to constantly be tied to my phone. That's the first way I'd use this. Second way would be I put in my competitors. And then the third way, I would think outside the box. Are there certain brands that I want to follow, that I want to keep up with? For example, I might really like the work that they do, even though they're not in my industry. And I can use that as an example to learn from. But I would personally, that's how I would use it. And then this can actually give you insights into what that business is doing, kind of the pace that they're doing things. And if I wanted to actually, if I'm getting a bunch of emails on this, you can set up filters within your email applications. So that way, like, if you get 10 emails, for instance, in an hour from a whole bunch of competitors, you can actually have them automatically filtered or automatically labeled and moved into a certain folder so you can quickly review. But this is a free app, pretty fantastic app. How have you got on the waiting list yet, or anything?
No. I filled out the form. I'm not on the list. Or I'm on the list. We'll see when I actually get it. But LinkedIn just rolled this same kind of feature out about 4 months ago, where we could start seeing ads on company pages. Yep. And I hope we have the same sort of functionality for LinkedIn. I think that'd be sweet.
Definitely. And while I would love like the ability to look at Facebook ads and know like when people are running ads, For example, like if I could go directly to a page and whatnot, I like the fact that I can just get notified about it and check it out whenever it's convenient for me. The benefit here is, again, I don't have to be able to let me go run a retargeting ad or something like that. Use it to see what examples people are doing, and then maybe you favorite that or you save that to an idea board of different types of ads you want to run. So,
that'd be fantastic. Yeah, keep an Evernote of it or something, like a reference file. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's Ad Inbox Me. And so that does it for the tools portion or the tool time portion of Social Chatter. AJ, is there anything you want to share with viewers before we wrap things up this week?
I don't think so. I think we covered awesome news. I'm really excited about everything we've shared today.
So where's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
Mine's pretty easy. I mean, anything, you can follow me on LinkedIn, just type AJ Wilcox and I'll pop right up. Or if you're interested in anything related to LinkedIn ads, go to b2linked.com and fill out the form on any of the pages. You won't go to a sales rep and you won't be put on our mailing list. It just goes directly to my inbox, and I'm not a sales guy. So ask any questions you want.
Fantastic. And be sure you drop that. We're going to drop that in the comments for people who are following us on, say, Facebook, on our Facebook page. So this way you can learn more about LinkedIn. But AJ, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week. Thanks a lot for also helping carry the load. You actually did a really good job. I mean, you're basically performing double duty as sort of co-host and guest. So thanks a lot for bringing the goods on LinkedIn and all of the social media news this week. And obviously the tools that we talked about. For those of you watching, by the way, I just want to remind you, we've got another show next week. This is going to be episode 207. We're going to have Juliet Stapleton on. That's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, what's that? 10 o'clock in the morning if you're on Pacific Standard Time.
Yep.
But should be a great show as well. For those of you who want to get the blog post recap, we mentioned we have the daily email. You can also go to socialchefs.com/SC206. What that will do is that will take you directly to the blog post, which we'll be publishing tomorrow with all of the topics we talked about, the tools, the links, the video, along with our Alexa flash briefing that we publish each week as well. But AJ, fantastic having you on this week. Thanks a lot for helping pick up the slack. I really appreciate that. But we will see you all next week. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.